Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we are back with you once again. The dynamic duo of Behind the Steel Curtain co-editor Dave Schofield and the podcast producer Bryan Anthony Davis, talking about the Steelers, not the 53-man roster this time, although we have some stuff to talk about with that. We are talking about the newly signed practice squad. Bryan Anthony Davis, who's bad? How are you doing?
Bad? You know what? This guy's bad, but he's feeling good. And here's the reason. This team is taking shape. Yeah. I can't wait. And, definitely, I'm going to give a plug now. Check out Let's Ride Tomorrow with Jeff Hartman coming out at 5 a.m. in the morning. Even though it's a holiday, Jeff's working. He's working hard. You and I are working hard. Our entire BehindTheSteelCurtain.com team is working hard because getting all of this stuff out instantly to you and really getting it out there. So this is great. So check out Jeff's show tomorrow. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because the title is, Are the Steelers in Perfect Position for 2020? And I think today, being Sunday, September 6th, they put themselves in excellent position and added some great depth. And this practice squad is huge because you're going to see some of these names wearing black and gold on Sundays. And it's unprecedented because they have, 16 to the list? I think they have 14 right now.
14 right now. Yeah, we'll get to that. They have 14 now. I think I know what's going on there, at least for part of it. So we'll get that.
And we want that projection from you too, Dave.
Okay, well, I'll see. I have some. I have one that I'm fairly certain of, and then something else that I have an idea of. So here we are. Before we get to this practice squad, first of all, I want to give a shout out to the guys in the future. We got both of our mates in the live chat from Touchdown Under.
The Future Boys.
Touchdown Under. Sorry. Yep. So we're talking. It's like 8:15 in the morning down under. I think they're catching this early on a Monday morning. Just had to give a shout out to them. If you didn't catch their podcast, make sure you check it out from Saturday. Let's talk before we get into the practice squad. The Steelers made 2 roster moves today. Before the practice squad, they had a waiver claim and they had a free agent signing. And these players these should be very familiar names. They are not new to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're just new to the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. So which one would you like to talk about first there, Bad?
Well, let me just tell you this. I was excited because I got one of my jerseys back. Mm-hmm. But the other signing ruined one of my jerseys. So let's just put it that way. It's a wash. When I look at it, I don't care about my jerseys. This strengthens the team as well. So the guy I want to talk about first, we were so excited yesterday because my son Carlos Davis made the 53-man roster. Well, my other son, Sean Davis, from University of Maryland. Do I live in Maryland? I might not live in Nebraska, but I live in Maryland. No. So Sean Davis is back, and I love that.
Well, we talked about both of these moves yesterday. We'll go ahead and mention the other one. The Steelers made a waiver claim, and they claimed Joshua Dobbs, quarterback, who was released by Jacksonville. Sean Davis was released by the Washington football team. And both of these players are now found their way back to Pittsburgh. We mentioned this yesterday. I wrote it in an article this morning. I had an article out there that was 5 moves the Steelers could make before week 1 that pertained to their roster.
Very good.
One of them was bringing back some familiar faces. Those were 2 that I specifically mentioned, and then I listed a few other names, and that's the 2 that they did. So
before you go on,
I'm not going on. I'm rolling it back to you.
If it pleases the court, Mr. Schofield, I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because we all love to take credit for our predictions.
Yeah,
we have our Slack channel.
This one. Yeah.
We definitely have a Slack channel. And we go back and forth with the staff. We get all of the information. And it was running like a fine-tuned machine today.
Oh, yeah.
But I was looking down and like, Dave, Mr. Schofield, if it pleases the court, I'm going to ask that again. Did you not take credit for your article, but not our podcast yesterday?
I liked what you said. When you did it, but yes, honestly, I couldn't remember who said what yesterday. When we did it, if it was both you, we both were rolling so much. But yes, we thought these are some good depth pieces. Now, some people are like, oh, Sean Davis, blah, blah. Remember, yes, he was a second-round pick of the Steelers. The reason Sean Davis moved on was he still wanted to be a starting NFL safety. So he went out there, he took that shot. It didn't work out. Some people are like, oh, well, maybe he's just not good enough. Or maybe it wasn't the right fit. He went to his hometown team. Things didn't work out there. I know some people could be critical because he didn't win the job. But now he's coming back to Pittsburgh because, okay, you want to be a starter. You're not going to be a starter. You get released. Your old team wants you back to be like, hey, you're going to be a key backup. He's right. Then there he is. I liked Sean Davis as a safety. There was sometimes that you're like, love Sean Davis as a backup safety. Absolutely love it. I mean, that is quality depth right there.
Excellent. And that great point, Dave. And here's the reason why.
Yeah.
Everybody, you cannot say a bad thing about the next man that I'm going to bring up here, Charlie Batch. Yeah. Everybody loves Charlie Batch in Pittsburgh. The guy had a career record of 6-3, but he, in those 15 years, he was the best backup the Steelers have ever had. Yeah. He was fantastic. When he came into play, you weren't like, oh man, I'm so happy that he's playing over Ben Roethlisberger, but you're like, oh man, I'm glad we have him because Ben Roethlisberger's out. And the reason you were happy about it, because for 4 years, he was the starter in Detroit. Yeah. For about 2.5 years, Sean Davis was the starter in Pittsburgh. He was not amazing. He was not a Pro Bowl player, but he was solid back there.
And when he went down last year, patches not catching that interception in 2017.
But he made some splash plays too. So he's good depth. Like Ron Chess says, he could play free safety, strong safety. So if something happens to one of those guys, you could fill him in and feel a whole lot better than having Curtis Riley or Jordan Dangerfield starting. We liked Jordan Dangerfield as a special teams guy and possible special teams captain, but you don't want him there as your starting safety right now.
Yeah.
Curtis Riley, we don't know enough about if one of these guys comes into play. If Davis comes in and has to play, that's not ideal, but it's a whole lot more ideal than an unknown, and you know what you're getting.
Yeah. Now, let's get rolling into this practice squad because I know that's what everyone's here. They want to discuss it. They're ready to go. One other quick thing. Davis, we're going to be looking at stuff that who knows how they're going to use him. It might take him a while to get him back to speed. Who knows? Don't know if he'll be in there in the sub packages. My question was, is that going to affect any playing time maybe in like dime for someone like Cam Sutton? We'll see. Maybe it. If you're having problems getting your players on the field because you have so many good players, that's a good problem to have. Let's not worry about having to get in playing time. The other move that some people liked, some people didn't like, was Joshua Dobbs coming back as the third quarterback. Some people would prefer Hodges. Some people said no. Honestly, when you're talking about your third quarterback there, this is what Dobbs brings to the table. You now have a guy on your team that during practice, when you are going up against, let's say, the Houston Texans or the Baltimore Ravens or one of the other teams that the Steelers play that has a more mobile quarterback, you now have a quarterback that can emulate that player for the team. Last year, the Steelers went out and signed a different quarterback to the practice squad just so they could be the Lamar Jackson in practice. The Steelers shouldn't have to do that now. He brings that to the table, and we'll talk about Hodges here in a little bit. Anything you want to say about Dobbs before we roll into this real quick?
No, it's a smart signing. I like Doc, but this is a better move for the team. The team got stronger in depth with these two guys.
Yeah, so let's look here. The Steelers have 14 players of their 16-man practice squad. The way it breaks down is this first. 14 of those players all on their training camp roster. Every one of them. All 14. So these are not people that weren't just with the Steelers on Saturday prior to 4 p.m. So they did 8 on offense. No, sorry. I'm already ahead of myself. 7 on offense, 6 on defense, and one kicker. So let's mention the kicker. Corliss Waitman did get signed to the practice squad. He was the punter in the competition with Jordan Berry. That's still very interesting because the Steelers did bring in another player they brought in Dustin Colquitt for a workout. No news there yet of any kind of signing. Maybe he wants more money. Who knows how that's going to work? Maybe he wasn't up to what they thought they already had with Barry, but they have Waitman there. I did not think that Waitman was also a place kicker, but there were some people that did bring up the notion that he could also fill in a pinch as place kicker. Punter is not usually any kind of kicker is not usually a player you keep on the practice squad, but this is 2020. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. This is oh no, we have a problem COVID wise with one of our kickers going into the game. We already have someone who's in through the COVID protocol and ready to go. Do you see that any more than that?
You know what? I think that you hit it right on the head. That is a great way to explain this.
So that's the kicker. You want to roll offense first?
Yeah, let's roll with O.
I'm going to just go, player and position. I'm going to read them all, and then we're going to give our thoughts as to some of them there. One running back, that's surprising, in Trey Edmonds. 3 offensive tackles in Derwin Gray, Anthony Coyle, and Jaron Jones. Is it Jaron or Jaron? I think it's Jaron. Okay. A tight end, Kevin Rader, and 2 wide receivers in Dion Kane and Amara Darboh. That's the offensive players in the practice squad. Bryan, what jumps out at you first?
The first thing that jumps out at me is no Kareth White. Mm-hmm. That's what jumps out. I do not know if he's signed anywhere else yet, Dave. Mm-hmm. He possibly may have by the time that this has aired or by the time that you're listening to this. But Kareth White, I kind of thought they'd bring him along, but we talked about that yesterday in the speed of who they've kept, like Ray McLeod, kind of made him expendable. So Trey Edmonds on there as a running back, I know his brother's on the team. That's not why he's here, because if it was because of relationships, Ryan Switzer could still be here. That's the other guy. Ryan Switzer is not on this list.
And that was reported before this came out that he was not going to be back in Pittsburgh, although we don't know why. So go ahead.
But you look at Trey Edmonds, and he's safe. He could play special teams. He could be up in a pinch. He knows the system. He has not started, but he has played quite a bit. I remember in that Colts game, you've seen him a lot. So, it's he's safe. They could bring him up, and he's reliable for this team. When I look at the wide receivers, I'm seeing the same thing. Amara Darboh was here for a couple games. Dion Kane played a lot last year. So these guys could step in just like that. And they were NFL quality players last year because they played on an NFL roster, especially Kane. So those are safe guys to put on the practice squad. There's not many anonymous guys on this practice squad, Dave.
Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting because I correctly picked the wide receivers and the tight end when I projected that. I had Edmonds and White. Say there was no White or Smallwood. I think Smallwood was just too banged up through training camp for the Steelers to do much with him.
I would think so.
My thought with Edmonds is you got to remember last year, he also played a little bit of fullback at times whenever they wanted to try to use one when Rosie Nix was out hurt. So that's probably why he's a better option there, because he's gives you something else in case something happens. That's just my opinion. And Edmonds started on the practice squad last year. He's back in a familiar spot. This is where he started with the Steelers practice squad to start 2019 and then ended up getting promoted. So anything else there? I mean, I actually had the Steelers keeping Derwin Gray on the roster and having Hassenauer on the practice squad, because right now the Steelers have more centers than tackles on their roster, on their active roster, but they have 3 tackles on the practice squad and no other interior linemen.
So what did he say yesterday?
Although we're not really sure with Gray, because I think he has more position flexibility. So what was that, Brian?
We had a podcast BTSC meeting yesterday.
Yes.
And you made a comment about that 4 p.m. on Saturday is the deadline for practice squad players to be on the active roster. Is that what it is?
Oh, you mean for 4 p.m.? What do you mean 4 p.m. Saturday? That was the cut down yesterday.
Okay, no, but I'm talking about on game weekend.
Oh, on game weekend, yes. Well, if you play on Sunday, if you're elevating someone from the practice squad just to elevate them, I'm pretty sure it's 4 p.m. on Saturday. So for the Steelers Monday night game, that should be 4 p.m. Sunday. But if it's a COVID-related issue, that could be bringing somebody up until 90 minutes before the game. I don't think that they nix that for non-COVID issue stuff. I think it would specifically be if someone goes on the COVID list. That for that one, you have up until your inactives are ready where you can make a move. But otherwise, it's 4 p.m. the day before has always been when any final roster move would have to be made. And you can elevate 2 players that could then go back, but you don't have to. Wouldn't be shocked if there's going to be a wide receiver elevated week 1. That would not surprise me at all because they are only carrying 5. Anything else there? Kevin Rader, I just expected them to keep a tight end there.
I like that. I think he's solid.
And he was on and off the practice squad last year. When they needed somebody else, they got rid of him, and then they brought him right back. He's a local guy. So anybody else missing? You know, we mentioned Ryan Switzer. We mentioned no Kareth White or Wendell Smallwood. Other than that, I think they pretty much had their guys there. Saeed Black and all, but do you really want to keep a third wide receiver? And plus, they had him in camp and let him go and brought him back. So I kind of didn't see that happening either.
You know, Deon Cain cancels out Saeed Black now.
Yeah.
Because of the size. So you have that big guy in waiting too, because Cain is 6'2".
Yeah.
And I believe, I don't know whether Saeed was 6'2" or 6'3", but kind of cancels that out there. And you have a known commodity in Deon Cain. You're going, like you just said, you're going to see Deon Cain or Amara Darboh on game day. You will see those guys. Not the whole year, but it works. Darren Jones, don't know as much about. I know he was an XFL guy.
So was Coyle.
But this is just, these guys are seasoned. So this is a seasoned practice squad for the most part.
Yeah. So I'm happy with what they have. You could see, I think you're going to see at least one more offensive and maybe 2 of theirs of players to when they fill it up. And I expect them to fill it up tomorrow by practice time. You know, the Steelers got a bonus practice tomorrow because they play on Monday. So that's very, very helpful. I think I don't know. I think I'm ready to roll into defense. Anything else you want to say there about that?
Nope. Let's take a pause and then go to defense.
Yeah. So do we want to go ahead and break this? Or take a quick break here?
No, just enough.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I thought we were just rolling. That's what I thought. I forgot. Notice no quarterback. We'll come back to that. All right. So on the defense, there were 6 defensive players, 2 defensive linemen, Daniel McCullers. I know people are like, what? Remember, they can keep up to 6 veterans on the practice squad. Oh, I remember what it was with the offense. It was the whole notion of the Steelers might be keeping the extra center on the offensive line right now in case Wisniewski's going to have to play for DeCastro because we still don't know his injury status.
That's
so, yes, that was mentioned in the live chat. I think it was Ron Chess might have brought it up. And we had talked about that some yesterday. So back to the defense. Daniel McCullers and Henry Mondu, both guys that some people thought could make that 53. I'm really surprised that it's those 2 in the practice squad and not Carlos Davis. That's actually somewhat surprised to me. The Steelers did keep linebacker Jaron Elliott. They kept cornerback Trajan Bandy and 2 safeties, Curtis Riley, who was just released today, didn't have to go through waivers because he has enough accrued seasons that he could sign anywhere he wanted, and 6th-round draft pick Antoine Brooks. So not surprised by any of those. Are you surprised by any of those, Brian?
Not at all. Nothing surprises me. The one guy that I'm seeing showing up in the live chat is Tuzar Skipper. Did not expect him to be back. And Jaron Elliott, is the guy that they're thinking of before Tuzar Skipper, it looks like here.
Well, the thing is, do the Steelers not want Skipper? Is Skipper exploring other options? You didn't hear much about him in camp, and when you did, it wasn't necessarily positive. So some people have even made mention of he's a guy that really, gets up for the big moment, that he's more of a game player than a practice player. Well, he didn't have any games to play in the preseason. And if you're going to be a professional in the NFL, you're going to have to bring it all the time. So I'd much rather be a game player than a practice player rather than the other way around, that you bring it in practice and can't do it in a game. But you just don't know what the Steelers are thinking there. Jayrone Elliott, he was brought into training camp late, and I can tell you the reason he was brought in was because they knew they could put him on the practice squad. So,
and they knew what he can do in games too, because
from playing last year
of that touchdown last year against Carolina, as awesome stuff says, I believe it was a pick 6. He also, I think in limited action, I think he had a big play one time last year in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know whether it was a sack or it was something, but he seems to show up.
Yeah, and he was more of a special teams guy. That game in Carolina, that might be one of those that you thought it was a fumble, but it might not hit the ground or something like that. I can't remember, but I remember watching that play last year.
I think it was a fumble, but I can't remember.
So I'm sitting here looking at players. Let's see. You got players, Trey Edmonds, Dan McCullers, Jayrone Elliott, Curtis Riley. Those 4 for sure are players that would not have otherwise been eligible for the practice squad. So they technically would still have 2 more, unless I'm missing someone there. I don't think Darbo had enough. I still think he had a year of practice squad. I could be wrong on that one. I'm not sure. That's up in the, maybe someone could correct me on that. So that's the defense. And and I think that's the biggest thing screaming there is no inside linebacker.
Yeah, that's the thing. And people are asking for that. Yeah. Where's the inside linebacker? There's a guy today that I was hoping that they would try to pick up, Todd Davis, who was actually a prized free agent last year, went to Denver. I know with Mark Barron coming in, moving some guys around, that he was left out in the cold. I would have loved to have seen them throw some of that DeCastro money at him, that extra money, because Todd Davis would be really good coming in. But they did not bring anybody in as far as an inside linebacker. They know something we don't. There's something that they know, either that or there's something they're planning or they're comfortable with it. It could be the Marcus Allen factor. A lot of people were worried when you saw Sean Davis coming back. They're like, ooh, could this affect Marcus Allen?
Not if he could also play linebacker. I think they almost have to keep him now because they have no other linebacker even on the practice squad. And at this point, with the good reports from him out of training camp, they might be a little bit more scared of losing him. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here on the practice squad, and then give some more overall impressions of the overall roster now that we know all but 2 players. 2 spots left. I'm going to ask you this question. Is one of those spots going to Devlin Hodges?
I kind of think so. I kind of think they want to have another quarterback on that practice squad, especially since it's an expanded practice squad.
Yeah. And the last thing you want is to, a COVID test and an injury and nobody in here that knows anything. If anything, it's just having people familiar with the system. Some people are saying, if they really wanted him, why isn't he there? Because he was released today. He does have to go through waivers. And it wasn't, he wasn't released yesterday like everybody else. Hodges was released today, Sunday. So he cannot be signed until he clears waivers. So I think that might be one of the spots. Not definitely, but a good possibility. I have 2 more other possibilities, not in names, but in scenarios. Another scenario is one of the players that the Steelers released. Could it be a Kareth White? Could it be Ryan Switzer? Could it be a Tuzar Skipper? That one of those players they are interested in for the practice squad, but they were kicking the tires on other organizations where they might have a better chance to make the 53-man roster. That could be the case. That's kind of what happened last year, with my understanding was correct with Johnny Holton. I could be off there, but that was the understanding I had. Last year, the Steelers didn't fill up their practice squad the very first day. They signed Holton the next day, or even the day after. I can't remember, depending on how the games went. Because I think he was just entertaining options just to see if he could find a 53 somewhere. That could be what's going on with one of these guys. You think that could be possible?
Absolutely. Let me go back to last year with Deontay Spencer. He got a gig, not just he was going to get the gig on the practice squad.
Oh yeah, they had announced that they expected to sign him.
But he ended up, just like that, he ended up the kick returner for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, and that was a waiver claim. They claimed they didn't even let him get to free agency and try to sign with the Steelers. They claimed him off waivers before that even happened. So that's what kind of happens with these things.
And you can't do that this year because you can't see what a Deontay Spencer can do.
Exactly. That's why it's funny. James Pierre, even making the team today, bringing in Sean Davis, if there was another secondary guy to be cut, the fact that the Steelers are still keeping him, that means they think so highly of him, maybe not in their 2020 plans, but maybe their plans for the future at cornerback, that they did not even want to expose him to possibly be grabbed by somebody else. So that's interesting. You know what? And like we said yesterday, hope we never see him. Hope we never see him on defense. Just let him develop and keep everybody else healthy. The third possibility. So we already had, option one, why they still have two spots. One of them could be for Devlin Hodges, who still has to clear waivers. Two could be they have a guy that's cleared waivers, but he's still exploring some options before he decides, if he's, it could be one of those things. If I'm doing a practice squad, I want to be in Pittsburgh, but I'd like to take X amount of time to see if I can find a 53. The third option is that the Steelers are looking for somebody outside of the organization, and it takes a little bit more time for that to come through and to happen. It's a lot quicker and easier, especially with COVID. Doesn't mean they have to come in and sign any other stuff or things of that sort, like they're having to do with Colquitt, the punter that they brought in to work out. It could just be working things out with someone from another city. So that's the third option. So either way, we should get our answers to what these are going to be probably within the next 24 hours. Wouldn't you say, Bryan?
I agree completely. I'd like to bring up a question here, Dave, because this is something that you're really good with. If other teams try and sign a player from our practice squad, asks Arn Barg here, do we get a chance to sign him to the 53, or is he just gone then? I believe he's gone, right?
That all comes down to the player and their representation, their agent. They could get an offer from another team and just say, see ya, because it's not like a waiver claim. That team would have to approach that player to sign them, and they are free to go sign. And they're like, well, why would a team want to go sign with the 53 of the Jaguars when they could be on the practice squad of the Steelers and maybe be promoted? Because the money difference is significant. That's why. There is nothing against the rules that if the Jaguars want to claim Daniel McCullers, the McCullers could turn around to the Steelers and say, hey, there won't be for the 53. We're going to sign. We're giving you the option first to promote me to the 53.
Especially, league minimum, pretty darn nice.
Yes.
I mean, I could live a lifetime off of not a lifetime, but I could live a long time off of the league minimum for 1 year. Not the practice squad money.
Yeah, and you could, and you don't have to go. You could stay on the practice squad. You don't have to go, but it's not like waivers. Now, if you were claimed off waivers, prime example last year, Patrick Morris, center. See, that could be the other person. He got released by Denver. Maybe they're wanting to get Patrick Morris back. That somebody like that. He was on the Steelers practice squad last year. Promoted to the 53 when Pouncey was suspended. When the Steelers went to put him back on the practice squad and he went through waivers, Denver claimed him. He had to go. Because it was waivers. And they had to put him on the 53. Now, if Morris would have just been on the practice squad and Denver would have came calling and say, hey, we want you on our 53, he could have turned them down. I'm not saying that this happened. I'm just giving you a scenario where that could be true. But then by promoting him and then putting him back down and having him go through waivers, he had to go. He didn't have an option for that one. So pretty interesting stuff, huh? So
it is, but it's exciting, Dave.
Just brought up, I can't even say the name right in the live chat, so I'm not even going to try to. That says, remember, if you sign someone off of another team's practice squad, if you poach them, you have to keep them on your roster, on your active roster for 3 weeks. You don't have to, but you have to pay them for 3 weeks. So you can't just go to the Steelers couldn't just go to, let's say for week 2, go poach someone off of the Houston Texans practice squad just for that week and then kick him, keep him on the 53 and kick him to the curb after that. You can't, if they did, they'd have to pay him for 2 more weeks and they would cost them that roster spot. You couldn't put anyone else on the roster. So got to keep that in mind. But the other thing to remember is because of COVID, Tuesday I'm pretty sure it's 4 p.m. on Tuesday, teams can designate up to 4 practice squad players that other teams cannot poach for that week. Meaning if a team's really concerned, oh, wow, we're a little bit thin at wide receiver. The last thing we want is for someone to come in and snag our wide receivers off the practice squad when we don't have an option to promote them and they grab them on Thursday. You could go in and protect that player for that week until you play your game, that they could not be picked up by somebody else. Lots of crazy different rules this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and try to pronounce that name because he says something else that's interesting. Boing Boom Shack.
Okay.
I'm going with Boing Boom Shack.
We'll go with it.
Boom, see if that's right. He mentions that Patrick Morris is on the Denver practice squad.
Okay, so he did get signed to the practice squad.
So,
I have not checked other teams' practice squads yet. I did see other players that were released, but I did see that, I focused on the Steelers practice squad. Bryan, the practice squad's pretty neat. It's pretty interesting to know who's here and there. I don't know about you. I was a lot more excited about those 2 moves on the 53-man roster today. I thought
really
that was exciting.
And the reason that we're both excited about that is, as much as you love to see some of these names here, you don't want to see them in anything but practice jerseys. And that's it. Really, if these guys are playing, that means something's gone terribly wrong. That's the bottom line to that. So when we were talking last year about all these guys that we loved, that I can't believe Skipper didn't make it, or Skipper's gone. I can't believe that Deontay Spencer's gone, because we saw them through four preseason games and we were excited about these guys. But you don't want those guys at the bottom of the 53-man roster or in the practice squad to have considerable playing time this year. You're glad that they have jobs. You're glad they're to work in practice. But the guys you need to get more excited about, less Dobbs, because you don't want to see Dobbs, because that means something happened to both Mason and Ben, especially Ben. But you really are going to see some of Sean Davis. He's a depth piece, but he's going to be in there.
Yeah.
If he comes in as your third safety, you will see some action from him.
That's pretty good third safety to be bringing in.
That's an excellent third safety. So
you're talking about
really like that.
So 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick is who you would have if you have 3 safeties in there. I'll take it. I'll take that.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all. But yeah. Oh, there was a question I wanted to answer that someone said, can the protected players, this was Bryan, and I lost it because it went off the screen. He said, can the protected players change week to week? Absolutely. It could be 1 week where you're hurting on the offensive line with injuries. You could have more offensive linemen. You don't even have to designate it. But why not designate the 4 guys every week? It kind of makes sense just to make sure no one can take them. But it could change every week. And if you're like, well, someone really wants them, they can sign them on Monday going into the next game. So it's not like you can protect them forever. It would just be for that week. Bryan, anything else you want to talk here about stuff before we call it a show? We ran down the practice squad. We talked about the roster moves from earlier.
No, these fine people have seen so much of my face this weekend and yours as well. So let's give them a break from that. But remember, the schedule continues. The new fall schedule is getting started on Monday, tomorrow. Let's ride. Then you're going to have Tales from 2 a.m., the very final Tales from 2 a.m. tomorrow, Dave. And it's because it's going on hiatus. Yes. So it's over. And I got to tell you,
it's available on YouTube right now.
It is on.
It'll be out.
Yeah, it is on YouTube.
Yeah.
But tomorrow it's going to debut on the podcast platform. And I got to tell you, my wife doesn't listen to many of my shows. She listened to this one and loved it. This is probably one of my favorite Tales from 2 a.m. I got 2 a.m.y. I promised that I'd do a little 2 a.m. stuff, but it has a lot of heart and a lot of fun. It's a little crazy. You're going to love these stories. So just check it out. I'm glad you didn't listen to it in church this week, Dave, like you did last week.
Like I did last week.
I'm thankful for that because, well,
my face would have been turning red.
It wasn't that bad.
Or was I going to get struck by lightning?
but it's entertaining. So definitely check that out. Live mic on Tuesday. We're going to have injury reports as well in the regular season. Jeff Hartman will be doing them. Jeff Hartman will also be doing the like he was doing the camp reports. He's going to do the Tomlin presser wrap up on Tuesday evenings as well. So it's going to be all Steelers all the time. Guys, we are your nonstop shop. We are your source. And we have grown a lot in the last month, and I'm excited about it.
One-stop shop, but the way it's been going this weekend, it does feel like your non-stop shop. It really does.
Well, let's change that. We're your non-stop shop.
I love that.
So, hey, Dave, go spend some time with your fam. I'm going to do the same with mine.
What family? What's that? I thought there was only Pittsburgh Steelers in my Steelers family.
Yeah, our BTST family is very special to us. I feel like you and I are related. In fact, I need to get your sizes because we're probably exchanging Christmas gifts as much as we see each other this year. So
we got to draw names out of a hat.
No names, man. You made the list. You're on my lottery list, Dave Schofield.
Bryan,
you know what a lottery list is? If I win the lottery, I'm taking care of you.
There you go. You're on my BTSC is on my lottery list. Well, not every, you know what I mean? Let's just pump it into there. But then again, I'd have to play the lottery for that to actually happen. I do want to say one thing. We talked about the whole, we mentioned Sean Davis, we mentioned Joshua Dobbs, and we thought that those were good moves for the Steelers to make. So we're taking credit when we call it right. I'm also going to admit when I completely whiffed. As I was saying, everyone's so happy that Ryan Switzer's gone. Don't be surprised when you hear his name on the practice squad, and don't be surprised if he's back on the 53 in the first quarter of the season. Looks like I missed out on that one, especially with the practice squad. You never know, but I wouldn't even go with that prediction now.
I'm not.
Yeah, but that was my prediction yesterday.
I want him back.
I admit I missed that one pretty good. So
I'm hoping he comes back because that's one of the guys that could make an impact on the regular season, in the regular season, if he's back here. Yeah. You never know. So
yeah. Well, thank you all so much for jumping on with us again here now on a Sunday, almost 7 p.m. on the East Coast. I was going to say we're only, it would be around this time when we're talking about post-game shows, but Steelers play on Monday next week. So at this time in 1 week, we're going to be winding down the 4 p.m. games. Can you believe that, Bryan?
Yeah, I know.
It's so close.
And not only that, when we're doing the preview, we're going to be watching in the background. We are going to be watching Chiefs and Texans when we're on the preview. So it's coming. So Tommy Maddox days to the regular season, my friend. Tommy Maddox days. Tomorrow it's Big Ben days.
Well, not to the regular season, to the Steelers regular season.
That's what I mean,
really
the Steelers regular season.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see other football. Not a big fan of having to wait all the way till Monday to watch the Steelers play. But, hey, we'll take it, right?
What's you going to do when the NFL schedule runs wild on you?
And as Mark Davison says, can't wait.
As Big Bro Sco says, can't wait.
So make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop and your non-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And keep making sure you're subscribing to the channel so you get the notifications when we go. Follow us on Twitter. We're trying to get out when the shows are coming. We did with this one and the special show yesterday to let you know that they're happening. Follow us on Facebook. And I've got to say it. Get on the website. It is the 8th story on there. It's pinned there. It won't go. Get in the contest. If you're not in the contest yet for the signed Marquise Pouncey football, get on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Click on that article. Click the link in the article. Get in the contest. It's free. It costs nothing. You can get the football. All you got to do is pick a game each week. So on behalf of Bryan Anthony Davis, the podcast producer, I am co-editor Dave Schofield of Behind the Steel Curtain. We want to thank you for joining us to talk about the Steelers 2020 practice squad. And we'll be seeing you real soon on all our family of podcasts. Have a great day.